Our Gospel reading is from Luke. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. "Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? When he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbours, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, I have found the sheep that was lost.'" In this is the gospel of Christ.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Rejoice with me, because we are finding common ground together. I will offer a few short reflections on the gospel text, and then we'll invite Fariborz to speak to us. Today is the 15th anniversary of the devastating attack on the World Trade Center in New York. Today is 9/11. And it's strangely appropriate that we can gather together on this solemn anniversary. Let me explain why. We remember outrage, suffering, and grief. We also remember that on this day, the world yet again divided into two camps: goodies, and that's us. We are always the goodies, we in the West. And then, of course, there are the baddies. And the baddies are not just fanatical jihadists, but Muslims generally. Anyone wearing a hijab became suspect on that day. Goodies and baddies. We humans instinctively, frequently divide the world into goodies and baddies. And the baddies are always the others who are different. In Jesus' day, the goodies were the Sadducees and Pharisees and scribes. And the baddies were the sinners and also the Roman occupiers. But the remarkable aspect of Jesus is that he did not respect that fundamental division into goodies and baddies. He always spoke about a God who was seeking common ground where everyone could meet. And so he told them a parable. Which one of you, when they lose one sheep, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness to go and find that sheep? Well, if you can use your imagination, most of the people listening to him, especially if there were any shepherds there, would have gone, "Well, I wouldn't. You want me to prejudice the safety of the 99 to go and find one that was lost?" So when Jesus says, "Which one of you wouldn't go?" A little bit like some funny scenes in that amazing movie, The Life of Brian. They go, well, I wouldn't. But you see, Jesus would. And it was so obvious to him that that is the way you seek and build common ground, that he has this urgent expectation that everyone else will. And that is actually a profound challenge to us. To stop meeting with the goodies and for it to become perfectly obvious to us that we go out to seek the other, the one who is different, the one who does not fit our expectations of life or of religion. It's totally obvious to Jesus. We are still waiting for it to be totally obvious to humanity. But in Interfaith September, we at Gordon Uniting Church are doing one small thing, to say it is obvious that we should seek and welcome others. And let me say, of all our friends from Baha'i who are here today, how wonderful that you have come here, because I think it takes courage to come to a different space. It takes courage on both sides. Dare we discover it's not just a thought or a directive to seek common ground. It's not just an idea. It's actually a rich experience. And if we have the experience, we will build a new world. Let us treasure that experience that we all share together this morning. It's my delight to invite Fariborz to speak to us, and I've invited all our interfaith guests to speak on the topic, what in your tradition encourages welcome of the other, the outsider?
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's really a great pleasure to be amongst you. It's wonderful spirit. We all can feel it. I have to thank Reverend Michael Barnes and the members of congregation of Gordon Uniting Church for inviting the Baha'i community of Ku-ring-gai to join you today, and also one of us to briefly talk about something fairly specific which already been touched by Reverend Barnes, how we should endeavor to be inclusive in our community, in our home, in our society, in our country. So let me the question put to us is this inclusiveness of our community. I have to say that I'm very touched by this beautiful service because you already captured the concept of inclusivity, the concept of unity in diversity. And this concept of unity in diversity is one of the fundamental principles of the Baha'i faith, that we all been created from one source and we all have a number of common grounds, and therefore we need to learn to live together in harmony. Let me briefly touch on the Baha'i faith as a way of providing context about this inclusivity. As I'm sure most of you know, the Baha'i faith started in 1844 in Persia by two significant personalities, the Bab, which means the gate, and Baha'u'llah, which means glory of God. The Bab came in 1844 and he said, "Him whom God will make manifest will come after me." The Bab, because of his claim to be a prophet of God, was martyred in 1850. And then Baha'u'llah, who was one of his followers, while he was in prison in 1853, he declared that he is the one who was referred by the Bab as the next prophet of God after the Bab. So Baha'u'llah was exiled for over 40 years from 1853 from his homeland in Persia to different places, and eventually he landed in Palestine in 1868. At that time, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, and he was put in prison in a city called Akka. And he died in 1892 in Palestine, which is now called Israel. For that very reason, the Baha'i World Center is in a city called Haifa in Israel on Mount Carmel. And let me show you. Okay, this is the shrine of the Bab on Mount Carmel. And as you know, Carmel is referred to in the Bible, Old Testament, as the vineyard of God. And they are the beautiful terraces of Mount Carmel, where the Baha'i World Center is located. Now, again, some of you would know about the Baha'i principles. We promote unity in diversity as one of the fundamental principles of the faith. Baha'u'llah said, "The earth is but one country and mankind its citizen. Glory is not for the man who loves his country. Glory is for the man who loves mankind." Another principle of the faith is abolition of all kinds of prejudice. And that's where the issue of inclusivity comes in. And let me touch very briefly on this issue of prejudice and inclusivity. One of the Baha'i principles is unity of race. The son of Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, refers to a beautiful garden which has got different flowers, different shapes of flowers, different kinds of trees. And he says, if a garden has got different colors, different trees, this garden looks more beautiful than just one color, one shaped flower, or one shaped tree. And we look at humanity as the members of this garden, if you like. Baha'u'llah, in his address to the Queen Victoria in 1868, he praised her for abolition of slavery. And then the son of Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, when he traveled to the West, to America in 1912, he championed unity of race between black and white. Those days in 1912, as you would know, black and white couldn't sit next to each other or being even in one church or any congregation. And so Baha'is have worked very hard in the U.S. to promote unity of race. Intermarriage took place amongst the Baha'is, black and white, in America. And we've been genuinely championing unity of race in America. I mean, we talk about September 11 is one incident, but so many other things we are seeing these days coming out of U.S. with regard to race. In South Africa, during the apartheid, the Baha'i community established itself there in 1940s, and we had both black and white members of Baha'i community living together, coming to the same community gatherings like you have. We had members of institutions of Baha'i community in South Africa, black and white, consulting together and just being part of one community. And this was 1950s, 60s, 70s. And of course, one of the interesting points here is, which was touched beautifully by Reverend Barnes and Robert, who shared about indigenous culture. One of the principles of the Baha'i faith is to ensure that we do not go in any country, any place, to try to impose our own culture on them. And that is also part of unity in diversity. The Baha'i community has been established in over 200 countries, but anywhere you go, whether it is Vanuatu, Fiji, Mongolia, Tanzania, you see that Baha'i communities, while they have got certain principles that we all follow, but we maintain their culture. We maintain their principles, which basically enshrine in who they are as people of that land. And that is very important for us. I think on that note, let me just tell you something about unity in religion that Reverend Barnes beautifully touched this morning. It's very important not to have these baddies and goodies. And we believe in the Baha'i faith that God has sent his messengers throughout the history for the education of humanity. We call it the progressive revelation. God reveals his prophets at different age, different period, according to the needs of society. And therefore, we see all these beautiful religions as one, in a sense that they're all coming to educate us, to unify us, to ensure that we all live together in harmony. And that is a very important principle of the Baha'i faith. And we believe that if we adhere to this principle of unity in religion, we can have these beautiful gatherings of different faiths in different locations. You are coming to the Baha'i House of Worship today. We are here. I'm delighted to see other people are coming to give a talk in this church. This is the way we have to basically model our community in the 21st century. And I deeply congratulate your church and the mission that you are trying to fulfill in this process. On this note, let me just say something about the Baha'i House of Worship, because we're going there. And let me see whether I can pick up a few of them. You see, this temple is built in India. In every continent, we have got one Baha'i House of Worship. And in every continent, the shape of the temples reflect the culture of that continent. This comes back to the issue of unity and diversity that we would like to preserve. This is in Chicago. This was the second Baha'i temple built in 20th century. The first one was in southern part of Russia, but the earthquake has destroyed that, so we don't have that temple at the moment. This one is in Uganda in Africa. And this one is in Panama. And this one is in Chile, which is beautiful. It's one of the last, basically, temple we have, which is going to be inaugurated fairly soon in Chile, actually. And, of course, this picture reflects the concept of unity and diversity from the Baha'i community. Let me just take you back to the, if I can, on our own temple, if I can find it very quickly. If not, doesn't really matter. You will see it shortly. While every Baha'i temple has got its own characteristics based on the nature of that continent and the culture of the people, they have got some common grounds. And those common points are they have 9 sides, 9 gates, 9 columns. And the reason for that is because, as you know, number 9 is the highest single number. In other words, after 9, you lose that unity, that singularity. It becomes 10, 11, 12, 100, 1,000. Is no longer singular. And so we picked up the highest single number as symbol of unity in religion. And at the Baha'i House of Worship, as you will note this morning, also today is going to be very, very crowded, and is a special, obviously, service, choral festival. You will note that we are holding always all the holy books of all religions in our temple. Our service, when we conduct, we read out from all scriptures of major religions as a sign of respect and as also respect that we have for all people of the world. wherever they're coming from, basically. So this is what you're going to experience, hopefully, this morning. Although this one is going to be very special, you might not necessarily read from every scripture in a normal way. On this note, it is my very great pleasure to be here, and the Baha'i community members who are here also delighted to be here, and thank you very much. And we're looking forward to seeing some of you at the Baha'i House of Worship this morning. Thank you.
I'm trying to comprehend all these extraordinary principles. Unity of race that you embodied in South Africa during the apartheid era. Unity of religion that you embody by having all the great religions' holy books in your place of worship. This is extraordinary. Thank you so much for bringing these insights to us. And also respect of culture, which we experienced last week with our Indigenous friends. We have much to learn from each other, and when we meet on common ground, I think we are clearly enriched as one humanity. Thank you.